Samar Island is the third largest island in the Philippines and has one of the most extensive forest over limestone ecosystems in the country. This ecosystem is home to a wide array of uniquely adapted flora and fauna. Samar Island is known to be one of the centers of botanical diversity in the Philippines and has been nominated as a UNESCO World Natural Heritage Site for its exceptional natural beauty and precious biodiversity. For these reasons, CONserve-KAIGANGAN, a biodiversity research program, was established. Kaigangan is a Samar local word that means forest over limestone. Our research program's mission is to assess and conserve the biodiversity in Samar Island's forest over limestone towards its sustainable management. One of our program's projects is the assessment of biodiversity and community structure in forest over limestone ecosystems. This component of our research aims to determine plant diversity and vegetation structure in various habitat types in forests over limestone, to determine animal diversity associated with forest over limestone, to identify functional classification of vegetation with its associated animal diversity, and to analyze the environmental factors influencing the prevailing structure of the biota. We conducted a comprehensive biodiversity assessment of forests over limestone in the municipalities of Paranas, Taft, and Giwan with remarkable findings. A combined total of 71 plant species were recorded from these municipalities, with at least 3 tree species classified as vulnerable based on the DENR updated national list of threatened Philippine plants. A total of 52 terrestrial vertebrate animal species were also recorded, including 5 amphibian species, 15 reptile species, 20 bird species, and 12 mammal species with conservation statuses ranging from threatened to endangered and critically endangered, based on the DENR updated national list of threatened Philippine fauna. This knowledge will empower our stakeholders in these areas to make appropriate research-based conservation efforts for the protection of these ecosystems that harbor an assemblage of rare, endemic, and economically important flora and fauna. Through this program, people will be equipped with knowledge on forests over limestone biodiversity, including the ecosystem services that it can offer to the community. We at CONserve-KAIGANGAN continue to further raise awareness and capacitate national and local government agencies, especially local communities living in and around Samar's Kaigangan.
Hello everyone, welcome to Kaigangan Biodiversity Webinar Series. In March 2022, Ms. Elaine presented about the biodiversity of forests over limestone in Samar Island Natural Park, or also known as the SINP. Her study aimed to provide information on the outcomes of the plant and animal biodiversity in SINP. Second, to describe the tree community structure in SINP. Third, to highlight the significance of the nomination of SINP as a UNESCO Natural Heritage Site. This was conducted specifically in Paranas and Taft, Eastern Samar, a province in the Philippines located in the Eastern Visayas region. Some of the highlight of the results of her study are the identification of some ecologically important amphibians, for example, the Philippine endemic Platymantis guentheri. In terms of reptiles, a very interesting one example is the Lycodon dumerili, which exhibits a widespread distribution and has been documented throughout the Mindanao Paig or the Pleistocene Aggregate Island Complex. Ms. Elaine discussed also about her interesting findings on birds, for example, the Bucerus hydrocorax semigaleatus, also known as the Philippine hornbill, a large species of hornbill endemic to the Philippines. In terms of flora, she found this new island record species, for example, the Tectaria calcarea, a fern or herb species with native range in the Philippines. Overall, Ms. Elaine emphasized that SINP is indeed worthy of its nomination as a UNESCO Natural Heritage Site because of its natural and cultural significance. The following month, Ms. Ren D. Obenya successfully presented a very good study on some threatened woody plant species of forests over limestone in the Philippine Islands. The study determined the threatened woody plant species in the forests over limestone in the Philippines and discussed the threats of the forests over limestone in the country. And of course, Samar Island is one of her study sites in addition to Cebu and Batangas sites. Ms. Ren presented a list of critically endangered species based on the Philippine DAO Red List and the IUCN Red List. She also made an emphasis on economic uses of some of the identified threatened woody plant species in her study sites. For example, the Shirrea nigrocensis, a Philippine endemic dipterocarp species, and our very own Tectona philippinensis with known natural populations in Batangas and in Mindoro. The third one is the Aquilaria-Cumingiana, a source of agarwood, a highly prized resin with many economic values. And the fourth example is the Hopea philippinensis, which is also a Philippine endemic dipterocarp species. Part of the study is the identification of threats and conservation concerns in the study site. For example, the limestone quarrying, deforestation, illegal logging, among others. Ms. Ren concluded the presentation by highlighting the potential contribution of her study to sustainable development goals. In May 2022, UPLB Assistant Professor Deza Marie Antoinette Fernandez gave us new insights into biodiversity of forests over limestone in Kalicoan Island, Giwan, Eastern Samar, Philippines. She also did biodiversity assessment in the study site for both flora and fauna. Interestingly, Assistant Professor Fernandez recorded 41 plant species belonging to 18 families, of which 5 species are Philippine endemics, 9 threatened species based on the IUCN Red List, and 5 threatened species based on the DAO 2017-11 Red List. And these are some of the photographs of the plant species she identified. Walachodendron salabicum, which is locally known as banuyo, Aquilaria cumingiana, which is one of the agarwood-producing Aquilaria species found in the Philippines, and Hansea wenzeliana, also one of the identified endangered species based on the IUCN Red List. For fauna component, 21 vertebrate species were recorded, of which 6 are documented throughout the Mindanao Paig or the Pleistocene Aggregate Island Complex. And here are some of the photographs of the vertebrate species he recorded from the study site. Just last month, we learned a lot from UPLB Assistant Professor Marjorie de Los Angeles, who discussed about the ecology of understory plants of forest over limestone in Samar Island, Philippines. She documented plant understory species in forest over limestones and described the pattern of plant distribution with reference to ecological parameters using multivariate tools in Paranas, Taft, and Giwan, Samar. Assistant Professor Marjorie recorded 26 understory floral species divided into 21 flowering species and 6 fern species. Part of her study is to determine the species richness and diversity indices of Paranas, staff, and P1. In addition, she found that the understory plant species from Paranas and Taft sites are highly affected by soil iron concentration and electrical conductivity, whereas plants from B1 are highly associated with soil pH and other macro and micronutrients.
Okay, so good morning po everyone and welcome to our Kaigangan Biodiversity Webinar Series 2024. So today we just had a little bit of technical difficulty and technical issues when it comes to our live stream. So if you have friends or colleagues who would want to join our Zoom right now, you may share yung link na sinend po namin sa inyo sa email, and we really encourage you to join us here on our Zoom. And later on, we will upload the recording of this webinar. So hindi lang po tayo makakapag-live stream sa ngayon, pero ay i-upload pa rin po natin yung recording later on. So again, welcome po. We would love to encourage you to share on the chat box where yung organization and affiliation nyo po that you are representing, the university that you are representing. So later on, we will introduce our speaker. Let me just share po yung aking screen again. Lang po. Okay, so apologies po again for the technical difficulties. But before we begin, we would like to remind everyone of some of our webinar guidelines. So again, kindly keep your microphones muted during the talk. And second, if you have any questions po from during during the discussion and the presentation, we would encourage you to ask questions via the chat box, and we will accommodate those questions later on during the open forum. And lastly, we will also give them an e-certificate for this webinar, and we will provide you the evaluation form or the Google link posted on our Zoom chat box at the end of the program. So the e-certificates will be given to the or will be sent to the email indicated in the evaluation form. So make sure that the email that you will use is valid and correct. Okay, so again, let me just acknowledge po yung mga nagko-comment po sa ating Zoom. So good morning po from the UST PSAU, si Sir Ayrol Nakil, and good morning po sa lahat. Good morning po from Polytechnic University of the Philippines in Santa Mesa, and we also have representatives from DNR Region 8. So good morning po sa lahat. Good morning po from Laguna State Polytechnic University, Santa Cruz Campus, si Ma'am Janina. And we also have participants from Pakistan. So si Sir Muhammad Wasim, good morning. Good morning here from the Philippines, and good morning from also from Penra Samar, and good morning po sa University of Abra. We also have some representatives from Abra Institute of Sciences and Technology. Okay, so hindi ko na po siguro maisa-isa, but again, welcome po sa ating Kaigangan Biodiversity Webinar Series of 2024. So this is the first installment of our webinar series. So we really encourage you to join us monthly. So we are going to conduct this webinar every month. So we encourage you to like and follow us on our Facebook page, so you will be updated on our webinar series. So again, welcome po, and introduce ko na po ang ating speaker. So alam ko po na you're very much excited to listen to our topic for today. So let me just introduce our speaker. Our speaker for today is an assistant professor at the Plant Biology Division, Institute of Biological Sciences of the University of the Philippines Los Baños. She took her bachelor's and master's degree in biology and botany, majoring in systematics in UPLB. She took her PhD in biosystematics in Wageningen University in the Netherlands. Her research interests are biodiversity and conservation, plant morphoanatomy, plant systematics, and wild rice species. So, well, everyone, let us all give a clap reaction as we welcome our speaker for today, Dr. Maria Celeste Banaticla-Hilario, to discuss the exceptional species of forest over limestone in Samar Island.
Good morning, everyone. My presentation focuses on the exceptional species of forest over limestone in Samar Island, Philippines. So I will begin my presentation by introducing the concept of exceptional species, or ES. Then I will be discussing the occurrence of ES in the forest over limestone ecosystems in Samar Island, Philippines. I will explain how we rank these ES according to their conservation urgency, and recommend some conservation strategies that are suitable for ES. Then finally, I will be presenting our conclusions. Okay, what you see in this photo is conservation in action. So this is seed banking, which is basically maintaining a collection of live seeds in a storage facility. So seed banking is a method of choice when it comes to ex situ conservation. It is effective because it ensures the continuity and or survival of the species as long as there are live seeds in the seed bank or gene bank. And it is also efficient because you can conserve many populations and many species within a relatively small area. Unfortunately, not all species are suited for conventional seed banking, and we refer to these species as exceptional. So we can say that exceptional species are plant species that are difficult to conserve ex situ or outside their natural habitats. Okay, so what makes a species exceptional? There are actually 4 traits or factors that were put up by Pence and Associates. So the first one would be low seed availability. And there are several conditions under this factor. So the first 2, as you can see here, would be lack of seed production or limited seed production. Obviously, these 2 are due to failure in sexual reproduction. And that failure can be due to different factors such as, let's say, lack of pollinators in the area, or maybe the rare occurrence of compatible individuals in the case of dioecious species. Okay, some species would be producing seeds, but the seeds would be poorly viable. So some species would be setting seeds that are susceptible to certain pathogens. And then in the case of inaccessible seeds, of course, we cannot collect seeds of plant species that are located in a very remote area or in places where there are peace and order issues. Now, notice that all these conditions can be reversed. So once, we can say that once sexual reproduction and seed production have been enhanced, once the quality of harvested seeds have been improved via treatments, or once the access to the rare plants have been gained, the species is no longer exceptional. Okay, the next exceptionality factor or trait would be the possession of recalcitrant seeds. So this is a very nice figure showing you the differences between orthodox and recalcitrant seeds. So I just lifted this from the paper of La and Associates, which was published just last year. So seeds of orthodox species can be stored for a very long time in seed banks. On the other hand, recalcitrant species cannot survive the very dry conditions of seed banks. So even if we store them in the seed storage facility, they will just die there within a short period of time. And note that recalcitrants or a possession of recalcitrant seeds it's an innate quality of the species, so it cannot be reversed. Okay, next we have short-lived seeds. So short-lived seeds are species that has a storage behavior that is intermediate between recalcitrant and orthodox. So for some of the short-lived species, they can probably survive the dry conditions, but eventually they will also die in storage. So these seeds cannot survive the storage conditions for a very long time. So just like the possession of recalcitrant seeds, the possession of short-lived seeds is also an innate quality. So it's a built-in trait, so it cannot be reversed. Okay, next we have strong dormancy. Now, deep dormancy is actually good for the species because it indicates good seed longevity. However, for ex situ conservation, this could be really challenging because seed banking, seed banking it's not just storing seeds; it's actually maintaining the viability of the seeds in storage, and it's also ensuring that there will be enough supply for users such as farmers and scientists or researcher. Now, if we do not know the condition that will break the dormancy of the seeds, we cannot really use the accessions. We cannot, because we cannot germinate them. So living, highly dormant seeds, it's almost equivalent to dead seeds because we cannot use them. I mentioned earlier that in seed banks, the viability of the seeds has to be maintained. So once the staff in charge would observe that the viability of a certain seed stock would drop, they would have to regenerate that accession by planting those seed stock in order to produce a new batch of seeds that will replace them in storage. And that cannot be possible if we cannot germinate the seeds. But nevertheless, we have like many dormancy breaking treatments that we can test the different species. And once the correct dormancy breaking treatment has been determined, the species will no longer be exceptional. Okay, so we actually have in CONserve-KAIGANGAN, we have this paper on exceptional species that is currently under review. Hopefully, once it is published, we will just announce it in the CONserve-KAIGANGAN website. In our paper, we actually recommended the addition of another exceptionality factor in assessing the exceptionality of a species, and that trait would be poor seedling vigor. So I mentioned earlier that regeneration is essential to sustain the viability of the seeds in storage. Some species can produce seeds that can be germinated, but unfortunately would produce seedlings that will eventually die. So a requirement of regeneration is the growing of healthy plants that will produce healthy, high-quality seeds. And that would not be possible if the species or the seedling of the species cannot adapt to the ex situ conditions. Okay, so let me now discuss the occurrence or the presence of exceptional species in the forest over limestone ecosystems in Samar Island. So we covered two protected areas. So one is Samar Island Natural Park. So this is the largest terrestrial protected area in the Philippines. And then sampling was also done in a coastal protected area, Giwan Marine Reserve Protected Landscape and Seascapes. So you can see here the different studies that conducted floristic inventories in 3 municipalities in the area. So all these studies are funded by the CONserve-KAIGANGAN project. What we did is that we consolidated the species list, and then we assessed the exceptionality of the species in the consolidated list. And we did that by doing exhaustive literature search on species biology. We also use the seed information database to look into the seed storage behavior of species. After that, we were able to determine the species that are exceptional in the study area. And then we also look into the species distribution and conservation status by using these databases. So IUCN, updated or maybe not so updated national list of threatened plants, and also we use the threat search database. And then from there, we were able to classify the exceptional species based on their conservation urgency. So I will present to you the results in a little while. Okay, so we were able to identify 45 exceptional species from 36 genera, representing 24 families. So the families with the most number of species would be Ericacea, the palms, and Dipterocarpaceae. At the genus level, Calamus would have the most number of species, followed by Hopea with 3 species. Okay, looking into these graphs, you can see that exceptional species comprise a large portion of the forest over limestone flora. As you can see here. In fact, it composes more than half of the endemic and threatened species in the area. Also, I have to inform you that there are some uncertainties regarding the non-exceptional status of the species in this portion. It's because 27 of the 51 species do not have any available published data on their species biology. So it is possible that some of the species here could actually be exceptional, but right now we don't really have any data or evidence to prove that. Okay, so here you can see the exceptionality factors or exceptionality traits and the habits of the exception of the ES in forest over limestone in Samar Island. So you can see that majority of them are trees, and we have here the most number would be species with limited seeds, so poor seed availability, that would be the main factor. We have 12 species that are recalcitrant, and then we have 6 species that are recalcitrant and is also rarely occurring in the area. We have 2 species that have poor seed availability and strong seed dormancy, a species with poor seedling vigor and poor seed availability, and a species with poor seedling vigor and recalcitrant seed. So it is possible that a species would have more than one exceptional trait. So we can imagine that if it possesses more than one exceptional trait, it makes it more difficult to conserve ex situ. Okay, so we wanted to determine the exceptional species that would need that should be prioritized for conservation. So if you will just focus on this exceptional circle here in the top. So we determined 14, or we identified 14 species that are of critical risk. So these are species that are exceptional, threatened, and endemic at the same time. And then there are 7 high-risk species. So these are exceptional and threatened. 13 moderate risk species. So these are exceptional and endemic. And then 11 low-risk exceptional species that are neither endemic nor threatened. So this is the table showing you the different exceptional species classified according to their risk factors. So if we focus on this column, so these are, excuse me, these are the species that should be prioritized for conservation. You'll notice that most of them would belong to the family Dipterocarpaceae. Here we also have 2 novel species, the Begonia species, Begonia norma aguilareriae and Corybas kaiganganianus. These were both discovered by Prof. De Los Angeles a couple of years back. If you're interested, you can see her paper in the Kaigangan website. And then here are some conservation strategies that we recommend to reuse for exceptional species. These are just a few, and these are actually very general. So for all exceptional species that are critical and high risk, we strictly recommend regular monitoring and assessment of populations, strict regulation of harvesting, and public awareness campaign to promote conservation of these species. For all species that have low seed availability, we recommend the geotagging of the individuals, a sexual propagation to increase the number of individuals, and then documentation and recording of local phenology to aid in artificial pollination of dioecious species, and also in planning for seed collection. For recalcitrant species that are of critical and high risk, we recommend the establishment of seedling banks and also of living collections in nearby botanical gardens. For strongly dormant species, of course, there's only one way. We really need to test different dormancy breaking treatments. For species with poorly adapted seedlings, first thing that we really need to do is to study the seedling biology, the ecology of the species. And then for all the, no, not that for all, but for the moderate risk, exceptional species, we still recommend occasional species monitoring because this category would contain the endemic species. Okay, so now we have arrived at the conclusions. Okay, so first, exceptional species are an important component of the forest over limestone flora in Samar Island, Philippines. It actually makes up more than half of the endemic and threatened species in the study area. The exceptionality status of lands can be used as an additional factor or criterion in ranking the conservation urgency of species. Poor seedling adaptability ex situ could be considered as a factor in designating an exceptional status to species. And then conservation strategies should be devised according to the needs of each ES risk category. So it is important that we address the specific requirements of each exceptional species. And then finally, we really need to do more studies and more research on species floral, seed, and seedling biology because by understanding the species, we can conserve them more effectively. So here are the references that I use in my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Banaticla-Hilario, for discussing to us the exceptional species of forest over limestone in Samar Island. Earlier, I was informed that Doc Banaticla-Hilario also have additional slides for us in addition to her discussion this morning. So, Doc Hilario, may I request you to share your slides?
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? There. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Anne. Okay, so last week, I was able to read the comments from those who registered, and I noticed that most of you would want to see the endemic species, the exceptional species in Samar Island. But during that time, I have already submitted my video recording, and I realized that, oh, I didn't get to show any photos. So please allow me to present to you just a couple of slides. Okay. Can you see my presentation now?
Yes, ma'am, we can see your presentation.
So here are the two novel species that I mentioned in my talk. So we have here Corybas Kaiganganianus, and this is a ground orchid. So these are the flowers, and you can see the heart-shaped leaves there. And then the other one is a begonia species, na Begonia norma aguilariae. Both of these species are endemic to the locality of Paranas, and they are both critical risk species. And then one more slide. So here, I actually failed to mention that there's another novel species from the critical risk species list. So sorry about that. So this species is an aroid. It's Schismatoglottis minuta. So if you want to know more details about these novel species, you can just read the papers. I think it's available in the CONserve-KAIGANGAN website. And then I would like to add this very special pterocarp species. So this is Hopea samarensis, and this is endemic to Samar Island, and this is also marked as a critical risk species. Okay, so that would be all. Thank you.
Again, thank you very much, Doc Banaticla-Hilario. Why don't we give a clap reaction to Doc Banaticla-Hilario for discussing the exceptional species of forest over limestone in Samar Island. And now we will proceed to our open forum. So we have, if you remember during the registration form, we asked some of the possible questions that you may have to our speaker, and we have selected 3 questions that we will ask today in our open forum. Okay, so question number 1 is, what are some unique adaptations that these species have developed to thrive in this kind of environment?
Okay, so forest over limestone ecosystems are characterized by very dry conditions because the rainwater would seep through the limestone rock. So the surface level water would be very low. And then the soil formation is also very slow. So although the soil could be rich in calcium, it is deficient in other minerals. So for the adaptation, so most of them would be serophytic in nature or adaptations that are suited for dry conditions. So this is just a general information because we have so many different diverse species in the FOL ecosystem. So some of the adaptations would be smaller leaf area, thicker epidermis, a denser leaves and shoots. And then also some species, they would tend to be to have the tolerance to above normal levels of calcium. So those are just some traits that I'm aware of. I'm sure that there are many more adaptations.
Okay, thank you very much for Doc Banaticla-Hilario, and I think that's also a good topic to discuss eventually or even write a paper about. Okay, so next question that we have here is, what are the current threats being faced by forest over limestone in the country and most especially in Samar Island?
Okay, so I'm sure uh, some of our viewers here are actually from Samar Island, so maybe they can help me with this. But if you're going to ask me, I would say maybe quarrying, because limestone is a key ingredient in making cement. So quarrying and maybe mining, because Samar is rich in mineral deposits. So those two large-scale anthropogenic activities are the major threats because they can cause really irreparable damage to the environment. And then aside from that, there are also other human activities such as collection of plant resources or excessive harvesting of plant resources, and maybe some negligent tourist activities. And then there are also other abiotic threats. So for example, we have climate change, which threatens not just the forest over limestone ecosystem, but all of us here in this planet. And then also some geological hazards. There are several fault lines that lies through SINP. So we have earthquakes and landslides. The forest over limestone formation is also quite delicate. So because in some areas the limestones would be, the rock would be more eroded, and then there are also sinkholes. So those are just some that I can think of. Maybe some of our Samarense viewers can add to that.
Okay, so thank you very much po again, Doc Banaticla-Hilario. And yeah, I think it's good that we are more aware of the current threats so we could add it to the conservation practices that we have right now. So and our third question from the initial questions that we have is, how can we sustain and at the same time protect this exceptional biodiversity in this island?
Okay, so for me, it would be a combination of in situ and ex situ conservation. So in situ protection to restore and protect the natural habitats as much as we can, and it should be complemented by ex situ conservation of the critical and high risk species. Of course, when we do this, we also need to involve the local communities because they are one of the primary custodians of the forest. So I think that's For me, that's the main thing. And also there has to be, this is very important, political will. So we need really more support from the government, no, at all levels, national, provincial, up to the barangay level. We really need that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. So yeah, I do believe that it's really a collaborative effort when it comes to conservation initiatives. Okay, so I think I saw one participant raise their hand. So if you would like to ask the question, you may unmute yourself po to ask the question verbally. Meron pa ba or I think napindot lang po ba siya? But anyways, I think we also have another question here on the Q&A. Nakikita niyo po ba ma'am yung
Yes,
ganyan?
yeah.
Ayan. So okay, so let me just read it for the recording sake. So can you share with us your sampling design? How many plots, how big they are, and how are they scattered in your area? Were there empty plots? And if there are, how did you deal with it? Siguro we just first answer this question po muna.
Okay, so I'm sorry to inform the one who asked the question that I did not do the inventory and the vegetation analysis, but the project has actually published the papers, so you can just look into the papers of Villanueva and Obenia. It's just they're published like a couple of years ago, and they are available in the CONserve-KAIGANGAN website. So what we did here would be a secondary data analysis. So they did the most important thing to do, know what species are there, what plants occur in the ecosystem, and then what we did was the next step. They prioritize or look into the species and see and rank them according to their conservation urgency and according to their conservation needs. Okay, so I'm really sorry, I would have to refer you to the papers. And then the next question.
Okay, so the next question po is, how can you say that the current issues is a representative of the real diversity in the area? Do you think there are still species that are undocumented even after doing your research or field activities?
Okay, so we all know that in research, we cannot really study the entire population of concern, right? So because we have like limited resources and we have limited time. So we really have to resort to statistical sampling. So just samples certain populations and hope that they're good enough to represent the entire area or the entire SINP. But of course, we accept that it is highly possible that there are many more undocumented plant species in the area. And maybe I will take this opportunity to invite and encourage all our young scientists, young botanists, and young researchers, especially those who are based in Samar, or those who are near SINP and other protected areas in Samar, to please study the flora there, because there are so many conservation-related information gaps that must be filled in. Okay, so to answer the question, the last one, do you think there is still species that are undocumented? Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you very much po, ma'am. Okay, si Sir Judah Aliposa raised his hand. May we request him to unmute to ask the question po? Good morning, Sir Judah.
Yes, Mapanyaga. I'd like to ask Dr. Hilario, because as she mentioned, perhaps many of the sites that were considered in the study are within the SIMP, but there are also other sites outside that may not be covered by studies. For example, almost a decade ago in Calbayog City, near the vicinity of Malahog, Barangay Malahog in Calbayog, there was a plan to mine the Kaigangan Calbayog. If not for the community's objections, that would have uh, wiped out, if not drastically affected the size area of the Kaigangan in Calbay City. Now, this is outside of the protected area of SIMP. And in other instances, there are areas that are now accessible to the public, mainly because of the change in status of the areas. And many of these are within the SIMP. For example, the NTFL CAP roads have now established a network, and it's expanding, of roads that will make previously inaccessible areas of Kaigangan now accessible to the public. And these areas are as yet understudied. So I think it's there's an urgency to for researchers and communities to carry out the science even before these areas are eventually opened up to road building, which I think is a major threat to forest over limestone species and other related species in the area. So um, um, uh, perhaps this study of Dr. Hilario will be a trailblazer, and hopefully it can make people realize that these exceptional species are just a start, and that hopefully the DNR as well will realize that they don't have to reclassify many of the areas of the SANP buffer zone because that will greatly diminish the Kaigangans in Samar. And I'd like to hear Dr. Hilario comment on this, please. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much po, Sir Judah. So I think it's a very valuable that's a really an insight now coming from an tama po ba, insider? Are you working?
Yes, sir, from Samar.
Yes. And I think wala naman talagang strong comment, but I strongly agree, no, with what you said, and thank you because you identified another potential major threat, which would be the roads, no? So more access to the plant resources. So I agree with you, sir. I am just a part of the CONserve-KAIGANGAN project, and yeah, we accept that we only, our studies were limited to 3 municipalities, but it's a start, and the hope is that people in Samar will continue. They will cover the other unexplored areas. What you did, sir, is that you actually identified na, no, a problem that is existing in its yung studying of the assessment of the buffer zone, which is also very important. And I agree to that. It's a more proactive approach, no, sa buffer zones. Let's start at the buffer zones. Let's not wait until we no longer have buffer zones, no. So thank you very much po, Sir Judah. And again, I would like to urge our students and our staff from the academe. We have several state universities and colleges with campus near the area. So there are many opportunities for a collaboration. So let's see po, hopefully in the future nga ay marami pa tayong makitang research, marami pang madagdag na species dun sa ating species list, marami pang madiscover na species, and of course it shouldn't stop there. Hindi po tayo matatapos sa species inventory. Ang final goal would be conservation of the biodiversity in the area. So thank you very much po ulit, Sir Judah.
Okay, thank you very much po, Sir Judah and Doc Hilario for that. So we do have more questions po from the Q&A tab. Can you see, ma'am, the question po? Can we still accommodate some questions pa po? Although
Yes,
we're already over
just
time.
one more overtime. One more.
Maybe one more. So let me just recite this question from an anonymous participant. So thank you very much for the presentation, ma'am. I would just like to know how you determine the exceptional species. Am I correct to assume that a species was considered ES once it fits in one of the 5 criteria you mentioned? Or are there any rating that you used?
So the answer would be, to the first question would be yes. So that would be the only criteria that we use, the 5 criteria. And for us to do that, we have to really conduct exhaustive targeted literature search. Also, again, I would like to emphasize that there are so many gaps regarding the species biology. So for many species, we're still uncertain whether they are exceptional or not, because there is really no information about them. So again, I would like to encourage everybody to study the flora. So you can go to the field, or maybe you can also conduct lab-based experiments, especially those involving dormancy breaking treatments. Or yeah, it's again, the possibilities are endless. So I hope that I can encourage at least some of you to start working on this, or at least appreciate the flora or this unique ecosystem that you have.
Okay, thank you very much po, Doc Hilario. I think this is actually the beauty of really joining some webinars. It really makes you ask questions, and these questions would really breed researches and discoveries. So we are already over time, but we would really like to encourage you to check our website, because I've also seen some questions about medical importance or some ethnobotany studies, ethnobotanical studies of CONserve-KAIGANGAN. So we also already published a paper on that. So you can check our website at kaigangan.uplb.edu.ph. And of course, our Facebook page is at CONKAIGANGAN. So you may also check. We also post some of the recently published articles that we have. And for those who are interested to know more about CONserve-KAIGANGAN, it's our initiative in biodiversity conservation and all our accomplishments so far. We have presented it in our previous webinar, so you may also check our YouTube channel for the previous webinars. You may watch it there, or email us if you have more questions, or if you are interested in collaborating with us. We actually do have collaborations from Samar State University and Eastern Samar State University currently. So yeah, we really encourage, just like what Doc Hilario has mentioned, we really encourage our young scientists, our researchers to study more about Samar Island, because it's really rich. There's really more to know and to learn. And yeah, so I think that's it. Let me proceed with the um giving, or the the giving of the certificate to awarding of certificate to Doc Hilario. Let me just share again my screen. Okay, so I hope kita na po ang aking slide. Oops. Okay. So let me just read the citation. The University of the Philippines Los Baños Certificate of Appreciation is awarded to Maria Celeste N. Banaticla-Hilario for serving as the resource speaker during the webinar presentation entitled Exceptional Species of Forest over Limestone in Samar Island of the Kaigangan Biodiversity Webinar Series, held on 8 April 2024 via Zoom, signed Dr. Inocencio E. Buot Jr., Professor and Project Leader. Again, thank you very much po, Doc Hilario. Let us give Doc Hilario a virtual clap and applause as she presented and, of course, answered our questions earlier. Okay, so let me just give a quick announcement po. So next April 29, we are going to conduct the next webinar for our series entitled Innovative Breadfruit Technologies for Communities in Forest over Limestone. Our resource speaker would be Dr. Rosaline Alburo from the Cebu Technological University, Argao campus. I think I've seen some of the representatives from CTU And Doc Rosaline is also the Resource Center Director for the Biodiversity, Environment, and Natural Resources Research Center. So you may scan the QR code if you're using a laptop and you have, of course, your phone. You can scan the QR code on the image below, and it will be redirected to the Google form for a registration form. Or you may type tinyurl.com/kaiganganwebinar 2 to register. Okay, so I hope that we could see you again next webinar. And may we request everyone to open their videos for the photo opportunity. Okay. Ayan, so medyo ano lang tayo. I will just set the Zoom in gallery mode. Okay, so okay na po. I think open na ang lahat ng ating videos. Smile. Okay. That's for slide 1. Slide 2 pa po. We have 7 slides, so please bear with me. Okay. One more. So smile lang po kayo kasi hindi nyo po alam kung kanong slide kayo nakakabilang. Wait lang po. Okay, slide 3. So kung hindi niyo po kaya or medyo mahina ang internet or what, you can actually react lang kayo ng react to know that we are with you right now, no, na nagpi-picture. Okay. Next one. Wait lang po ha, medyo nag-struggle lang po tayo technically. Smile lang po. And then last one na po. Okay, thank you very much po again for opening your videos, and isi-send ko na po yung ating evaluation form. So the evaluation form is already posted po on our chat box. So or you may type tinyurl.com/kaiganganeval1. So again, our evaluation form will also serve as your attendance, because I've seen some participants who ask the question if there is an attendance list. Yes, this will also serve as attendance na rin po. And kindly make sure that your name is correct, because our e-certificate is automated. So, and also a reminder that our evaluation Google form will only be available for 6 hours after this event has concluded. So someone has raised his hand. Sir Kent, do you have any question po or apprehensions or what? Okay, so baka napindot lang po ni Sir Kent. But anyways, again, thank you very much for joining our Kaigangan Biodiversity Webinar Series and on our first installment. And we would really encourage you to join us again. So we will post the Google form or registration form on our Facebook page. So kindly like and follow us on our Facebook so you will be updated on our online events. And of course, you'll be updated if we have another publication published or scientific article about our initiative of in Samar Island. And yeah, and that's it. Thank you again. Thank you very much. And see you all next webinar. Thank you po.
Samar Island is the third largest island in the Philippines and has one of the most extensive forest over limestone ecosystems in the country. This ecosystem is home to a wide array of uniquely adapted flora and fauna. Samar Island is known to be one of the centers of botanical diversity in the Philippines and has been nominated as a UNESCO World Natural Heritage Site for its exceptional natural beauty and precious biodiversity. For these reasons, CONserve-KAIGANGAN, a precious biodiversity. For these reasons, CONserve-KAIGANGAN, a biodiversity research program, was established. Kaigangan is a Samar local word that means forest over limestone. Our research program's mission is to assess and conserve the biodiversity in Samar Island's forest over limestone towards its sustainable management. One of our program's projects is the assessment of biodiversity and community structure in forest over limestone ecosystems. This component of our research aims to determine plant diversity and vegetation structure in various habitat types in forests over limestone, to determine animal diversity associated with forest over limestone, to identify functional classification of vegetation with its associated animal diversity, and to analyze the environmental factors influencing the prevailing structure of the biota. We conducted a comprehensive biodiversity assessment of forests over limestone in the municipalities of Paranas, Taft, and Giwan with remarkable findings. A combined total of 71 plant species were recorded from these municipalities, with at least 3 tree species classified as vulnerable based on the DENR updated national list of threatened Philippine plants. A total of 52 terrestrial vertebrate animal species were also recorded, including 5 amphibian species, 15 reptile species, 20 bird species, and 12 mammal species, with conservation statuses ranging from threatened to endangered and critically endangered, based on the DENR updated national list of threatened Philippine fauna. This knowledge will empower our stakeholders in these areas to make appropriate research-based conservation efforts for the protection of these ecosystems that harbor an assemblage of rare, endemic, and economically important flora and fauna. Through this program, people will be equipped with knowledge on forests over limestone biodiversity, including the ecosystem services that it can offer to the community. We at CONserve-KAIGANGAN continue to further raise awareness and capacitate national and local government agencies, especially local communities living in and around Samar's Kaigangan.